My name is Alara, 41 years old. A graphic designer who finds comfort in the precise curve of a font and the stability of a well-chosen color palette. My husband, Liam, is 42. He runs his own logistics company, practical, reliable, the kind of man who remembers to change the furnace filter without being asked and brings me coffee exactly as I like it every single morning. We've built 17 years together in Portland. A good life. Comfortable. Predictable. Safe. Like a well-worn, favorite sweater. Until a rainy Tuesday evening trapped me on the 5:15 commuter train back from Seattle. The carriage hummed with the damp exhaustion of commuters. Rain streaked the windows, blurring the city lights into smears of gold and neon. I was wedged against the cool glass, sketching idly, trying to ignore the ache in my back from a day of conference chairs. That's when he sat down, diagonally opposite. You notice details when you're suspended in a metal tube for hours. Younger, maybe early 30s, dark hair curling rebelliously at his collar. A worn corduroy jacket over a band t-shirt I vaguely recognized. Not conventionally handsome, but he carried a quiet intensity, a stillness that wasn't indifference. He pulled out a battered leather-bound notebook, far more lived-in than my sleek sketchpad, and began to write, his brow furrowed. Rain traced paths down the window beside him, catching the light. Our eyes met. Just a flicker. It wasn't lightning. More like recognition. Like finding a passage in a book written in a language you somehow understand, deep in your bones. He offered a small, hesitant smile. I mirrored it, feeling an unexpected flutter beneath my ribs, a sensation long dormant, and quickly looked back at my sketchpad. My pencil lines felt suddenly clumsy. An hour later, the train lurched violently. My pencil skidded, ruining a half-finished sketch of a bridge. I muttered something uncharitable under my breath. He chuckled softly, the sound warm and slightly husky, like aged whiskey catching the light. Rude awakening, he said. Trying to capture the soul of industrial transit? He nodded towards my ruined sketch. So we talked. Tentatively at first, the relentless rain, the train's chronic lateness. His name was Silas. 32. And he was a poet. Not someone who dabbled, but someone who breathed poetry. He spoke about words as living entities, rhythm as the world's pulse. He described an old man selling apples by the waterfront with such vivid tenderness, imbuing the ordinary with a profound beauty I'd forgotten existed. He didn't just observe, he felt the world, deeply, openly, in a way that resonated within the quiet chambers of my own heart. Then, a young girl a few seats down began to cry, inconsolable over a lost stuffed rabbit. Her mother looked near tears herself with exhaustion. Silas watched for a moment, his expression softening. Then, quietly, he pulled a small, worn harmonica from his jacket pocket. He played. Not loudly, not demanding attention, but a simple, lilting tune, pure and sweet. It cut through the train's rumble, a sudden pocket of grace. The little girl stopped crying, mesmerized. He winked at her, then seamlessly wove the tune into a gentle folk song, humming softly. In the dim carriage light, his face earnest and kind as he played for a stranger's child, Silas seemed like the most authentic human being I'd ever encountered. My breath caught. This wasn't just attraction, it felt like a window opening onto a sunlit landscape I hadn't known I was missing. The rest of the journey passed in a haze of conversation that felt effortless, profound, and terrifyingly intimate. We talked about art, the ache of creation, the beauty found in cracks and imperfections. He recited snippets of his own work, his voice low and resonant, weaving images that lingered long after the words faded. He listened, truly listened, to my thoughts on design and life in a way that made me feel seen, truly seen, perhaps for the first time in years. When the train finally hissed to a stop at my station, the rain still falling, the goodbye felt like tearing a page from a beloved book. We exchanged emails, a flimsy bridge over a suddenly vast chasm. For the poetry, he said, his eyes holding mine. I'd like to read yours. My heart hammered against my ribs as I stepped onto the wet platform, the cold rain a shock against my heated skin. Walking into our warm, familiar home felt like stepping onto a different planet. Liam was in the kitchen, humming along to classic rock, expertly stirring something fragrant on the stove. "Hey, you," he greeted, wiping his hands on a towel before pulling me into a brief, solid hug. He smelled of garlic, herbs, and the faint, clean scent of his cologne. "Rough trip? Dinner's almost ready. Made your favorite pasta." His kindness, his reliability, was a tangible thing. It grounded me, yet it also suddenly felt heavy. Predictable. That night, lying beside Liam's steady breathing, I felt fractured. Silas's words, his music, the raw vulnerability in his eyes, replayed in my mind. I craved the intensity he represented, the way he made the mundane shimmer with hidden meaning. Then I thought of Liam, 17 years of shared history, unwavering support when my father died, the way he held my hand during every single scary doctor's appointment, the quiet pride he took in building our secure life together. His love wasn't whispered sonnets, it was manifested in the paid mortgage, the stocked fridge, the unwavering presence. It was bedrock. But was bedrock enough when your soul suddenly yearned for flight? The emails began. Silas sent fragments of poems, observations about the city, a recording of him playing a new melody on his harmonica, a tune that felt like rain on a dusty road. I sent him sketches, descriptions of light patterns on my studio wall, snippets of my own hesitant, long-abandoned poetry. Each digital connection was a spark, igniting something dormant and thrilling within me. I started noticing the poetry Liam did offer, the way he meticulously arranged wildflowers he'd picked on a hike because he knew I loved them, the deep rumble of his laughter when I told a terrible joke, the fierce, protective look in his eyes when he talked about our future. It was a different dialect, one I'd grown fluent in but perhaps stopped truly hearing. The conflict was a constant ache. One afternoon, Liam surprised me with tickets to a symphony, something elegant, planned, expensive. It was lovely, sophisticated. But my mind drifted to the raw, spontaneous beauty of Silas's harmonica in the train carriage. Another time, Silas described watching two sparrows fight over a crumb, turning it into a metaphor for human longing. That evening, Liam recounted a complex business negotiation he'd navigated successfully, his eyes alight with the satisfaction of a problem solved. Both expressions of intelligence, of engagement with the world, yet galaxies apart. I loved Liam's solidity, his competence. I ached for Silas's ability to find the sacred in the ordinary. Was this love for Silas? Or was it a desperate yearning for the parts of myself, the artist, the dreamer, that had gotten buried under the comforting weight of my everyday life? Meeting Silas in person again was inevitable. We arranged coffee, a public, safe space. Seeing him in daylight was different. He was still compelling, his energy vibrant, his conversation as stimulating as ever. He spoke passionately about a new project, his eyes alight. But in the clear light of a Portland cafe, I also saw the reality, the frayed edges of his jacket, the slight uncertainty beneath his passion about practical things like rent and health insurance. He lived beautifully, intensely, but precariously. He reached across the table, his hand hovering near mine. "Alara," he said, his voice low and full of unspoken things. "This feeling, it's real. Isn't it?" My heart stopped. This was the precipice. I looked at his hand, then into his eyes, eyes that saw the world in stanzas and metaphors. I thought of Liam, who saw the world in spreadsheets and solutions, who built a life for us, brick by reliable brick. I thought of the quiet comfort of our home, the shared jokes, the deep, abiding trust. I thought of the potential chaos, the inevitable hurt, the shattering of a life built on 17 years of mutual respect and care. I pulled my hand back, gently. The ache was profound, a physical pain in my chest. "Silas," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the tremor inside. What I feel, it's intense. It's real in its own way. You woke something up in me that I'd forgotten existed. Your soul, your art, it's beautiful. I took a shaky breath. But my life, my love, it's with Liam. It's a different kind of real. A deeper kind of foundation. To pursue this, I gestured between us, would be to tear apart something precious, something built on years of love and commitment. It wouldn't just hurt Liam, it would break a fundamental part of me, the part that honors promises. Silence hung between us, thick with understanding and unfulfilled longing. He nodded slowly, a sad acceptance dawning in his eyes. I knew, he murmured, a faint, melancholic smile touching his lips. But I had to hear it. You have a beautiful life, Alara. And a beautiful heart. Don't let the poetry die within it. He finished his coffee, and we parted on the rainy street corner, not with a kiss, but with a look that held a universe of what might have been. It was a clean, heartbreaking break. Walking home, the rain felt like a baptism. The pain of letting go of that intense, romantic possibility was sharp. But beneath it, like bedrock finally exposed after a storm, was a profound sense of clarity and a renewed, deeper appreciation for what I already possessed. That evening, I didn't retreat into guilt. I cooked dinner. When Liam came home, smelling faintly of rain and the office, I met him at the door. Not with a grand declaration, but with a hug that lingered, my face buried in the familiar crook of his neck. He held me close, sensing a shift. "Long day?" he asked, his voice a rumble against my ear. I pulled back slightly, looking into his kind, steady eyes that had witnessed 17 years of my life, my joys, my sorrows, my ordinary days. A strange day, I admitted softly. But it made me realize something. I traced the line of his jaw, a gesture more tender than usual. I realized how much I love the life we've built. How much I love you. Not just for the things you do, but for who you are. Your strength, your kindness, your unwavering presence. He searched my face, a question in his eyes, but also a deep well of understanding. He didn't press. He simply kissed my forehead, a gesture so familiar, so grounding. "I love you too, Alara. Always." Later, while Liam read reports, I sat at my desk. Not sketching, but opening a new document. I began to write. Not about Silas, directly, but about the rain, the light on wet pavement, the ache and beauty of choice, the enduring strength of a love that weathers storms. The poetry Silas reawakened didn't die, I reclaimed it. It became mine again, woven into the rich tapestry of my existing life. Sometimes, years later, I see a flash of dark, curly hair on the street or hear a fragment of harmonica music drifting from an open cafe window. A bittersweet pang echoes, a reminder of that intense, fleeting connection on a rainy train. But it's followed immediately by a wave of profound gratitude. Gratitude for the man beside me who hands me a perfectly brewed cup of coffee every morning. Gratitude for the life we nurture together. And gratitude, too, for the poet who, however briefly, reminded me to look for the extraordinary hidden within my own, beautifully ordinary, enduring love story. The rain washes the streets clean, but it's the steady warmth of the sun, day after day, that truly makes things grow. I chose the sun. And I choose him every single day.